Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we talk about high-value hi-fi, home theater, and headphone equipment. And today, do you want to do it the easy way? You want to do it the hard way? That's right, we're talking about powered speakers. The Aperion Allaire powered speakers. So, sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the Aperion Allaire powered speakers. Today's sponsor is the Wiim Mini Streamer. For less than $100, you can have Apple AirPlay 2, Bluetooth, Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect, the native Wiim application that brings in every streaming service known to man. You can put a whole bunch of these together for whole home distributed audio, and you can optical or digital out of this into your favorite DAC. That's right, the Wiim Mini Streamer. I think it's $89 on sale in the US on Amazon. Links will be in the description and the pinned comment. The Aperion Allaire. It's a powered speaker. They say it's 50 watts times 2. It's a Bluetooth speaker, also has a DAC inside, will accept optical inputs. It's rated at 60 hertz all the way up to 25,000 hertz. It's a two-way design. There's a 4-inch woven fiber woofer, and I think it's a 1-inch. Yep, 1-inch silk dome tweeter, and it has a port on the back. It's a slot port. So if you haven't heard of Aperion, they are a direct-to-consumer company, and they are one of the original, the OG of the direct-to-consumer speaker companies. They have been doing direct-to-consumer audio sales for over 20 years. Aperion was kind enough to send me products when the channel was very new, so I've always loved Aperion products. Number one, because they're built like tanks. Number two, because they sound good. And number three, I don't know what the number 3 one is. I haven't done a ton of powered speakers. I've done, I think, the Edifier R1700 BTS a long time ago. I shut that one in my office at work. I don't work there anymore. I've also done the Q Acoustics, I think a 3-way Mookie. That wasn't very good. And that's about it. This one's pretty straightforward. 2-way also has, where is it? Here it is. Comes with a really awesome remote. This is a metal remote, and it's magnetic, so you can put it on things. And this is going to be important. We're going to learn more about this remote later on in the video, but it's a very nice remote. Very nice. You're going to want to keep it. On the back, it has 2 threaded inserts on the top, which means if you want to, you can mount these to the wall. Underneath that is a 5-volt USB power only. But that's important, because the Wiim Mini Streamer is a 5-volt piece of equipment, which means you could put a Wiim Mini on here and power it from the powered speakers themselves. Underneath there, you have one analog input, which is a 3.5 millimeter analog input. It does come with a 3.5 millimeter 2 RCA cable. So if you have a CD player, a phono preamp, anything with an RCA output, you can connect it to the analog input of the Aperion Allaire's. Next to that, you have a subwoofer output. Next to that, there is the single digital optical input. Underneath there, you have the speaker binding posts. So the speaker binding post on this one is a output. The speaker binding post on the opposite speaker is an input. Both channels of amplification are in the speaker that plugs into the wall. Then you just run a speaker cable to the other one. And it comes with a very nice cable, very nice banana plugs, and nice heat shrink, red and black, clear, heavy gauge. Very nice speaker cable. But if you need to make them wider or whatever, it will obviously allow you to use any speaker cable you want. They unscrew too, so you can actually use bare wire if you want to. Sound-wise, very good. U-shaped, which means this is going to be a little bit emphasized on the bottom and on the top. And that makes sense because Aperion speakers, at least the ones I've listened to, always have a lot of bass. Now they have the Novus, I believe, which was pretty flat, and it had nice. It's a very good speaker. If you haven't watched my Novus review, I will put it in the comments. Be warned though, that was way back at the beginning of the channel, so I'm even worse than I am now on that video. That speaker was remarkable how much bass I got out of it in such a small form factor. I also reviewed the Virus. Those are a little bit more emphasized in the treble. These are kind of a combination of the two. So a lot of bass, mid-range is still clear for the most part, a lot of treble. Now, since it is so small, you can adjust some of the sound simply by leaning it back towards you, moving it around, lowering it, raising it, basically getting your ear either closer to the tweeter or further away from the tweeter. And that's another important point that we need to discuss. Mid-range is very clear, a little bit recessed. Again, I think there's a bit of a scoop out, but it's still clear, it's still present. I think vocals are in line, maybe step back a little bit. This is definitely not a forward speaker unless you get your ear right on it, and then that upper mid-range can come forward quite a bit. Can be pretty intense, but male vocals in the lower registers, lower male vocals, were a little bit covered up, a little bit veiled. Most male vocals were crystal clear, female vocals, again, crystal clear. Bass, pretty outstanding. Even though it's rated only down to 60 hertz, it felt really punchy. I like the bass, a lot of bass. Most powered speakers that I have, even larger powered speakers, don't have the bass punch as the Allaires. With that said though, some of that bass can be a little loose, a little bit boomy at times. It's not going to be the tightest bass. Sounds weird. Tightest bass. Anyway, the bass is, they got some down there. Not the cleanest, not the most quickest, but it sounds good. I like the sound of it. You can move these around a little bit to try to clean that bass up a little bit. And I'm not saying it's like bad or covering up the mids or anything. It covers up the mids just a titch. But you may move these in and out. The thing about them is though, I had them not close to the wall at all, and they still had a little bit of that boominess. You could probably get away with getting some of those isolation pads or maybe those foam pads that kind of angle the speaker up at you. That might clean things up a bit. Overall, the bass I like. A lot of punch. If you're listening to rock and roll, metal, things like that, probably going to be really good. EDM, fantastic. Maybe a little bit too much for jazz or some heavy acoustic stuff if you want like that super analytical reference sound. The bass is good. Bass is great. Treble, bit intense if you have the tweeter on axis. The good thing about the treble is it's clean, it's not brief, there's good decay, it sounds accurate, it just sounds more. There's more of it if you get these right at ear level. But again, these are so small, you can angle them up, you can angle them down, you can do a lot to control the treble a little bit. Overall, I think the sound signature of this speaker is going to appeal to a lot of people, especially if you are just getting into hi-fi. There's enough bass here that I wasn't scrambling for a subwoofer like I have done in the past with other powered speakers. I like it. You don't need a subwoofer with these. These are also, they say they're a gaming speaker, but they're not, I mean, you can use them for gaming. You can also use them for anything else, for music, for vinyl, anything you want to. It's just a powered speaker. If you're enjoying the video, maybe consider subscribing and liking the video. It may be worth subscribing simply for my community posts, because when there's a big sale on speakers or amplifiers, I always post in my community section. So if you turn bell notifications on and you see a community post from me, chances are that it's going to be a killer sale. They're not really sales, it's really a marketing strategy from the companies. But I will put up posts when I think things are as cheap or as inexpensive as they are going to be. Soundstage. Soundstage is really awesome. However, Soundstage on most desktop speakers can be really awesome because they're just so small and you can pull them out and you can get into them a little bit in the near field. This threw a very wonderful Soundstage behind the speakers, very layered. Center imaging was locked in and the travel was great if you have something going from right to left. A track that you can test that with is Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool. Fantastic song, well, just period, but for soundstage and imaging, it is remarkable to use that song to test your speakers. I was very impressed with not only the vertical, basically the soundstage in the vertical plane and the horizontal plane and in the fore to aft plane, depth, very good. These speakers soundstage remarkably. Bluetooth, excellent. So the codecs, and a codec is how the data is packaged on your phone or your tablet, sent over to the speaker and unpacked. This has aptX, which is a better codec. When I say better, I mean it can handle more data. Some people think more data equals better sound. And in some cases, that can be the truth. aptX will handle MP3 quality, Spotify, 360 kilobits per second throughput. However, I have an iPhone, so I use AAC, or the Apple uses AAC. If it doesn't have AAC though, it defaults to SBC. These sounded really, really good through Bluetooth, and I was kind of surprised because I played a song on my phone and I played the same song on my computer that was connected to the optical connection. I didn't hear a ton of difference. And ironically, the Bluetooth actually sounded like it had a bit more dynamics. That could be due to a variety of things. So that could be something in my phone, something in the computer, some setting. The takeaway is that the Bluetooth surprised me just how good it was. Things I like about this speaker. Well, it looks good. Aperion speakers are always built really, really well. It soundstages and images like crazy. I know, I just said a lot of desktop speakers soundstage and image well. They do. I think these do a better job though. I was continually surprised just how good the soundstage and imaging was. The Allaires also sound way bigger than they have any right to. They sound big. They don't sound like a tower speaker. They don't even sound like a really big bookshelf speaker. But they sound bigger than they should with just a 4-inch woofer. I also like the remote control. And you better like the remote control too, because the remote control is also something that I don't like about this speaker. Things that I don't like. Well, there are 0 physical buttons on this. That means if you want to change inputs, if you want to change volume, you better have your remote control available, because if you lose this speaker fundamentally becomes useless. The reason I know that is because when I first got these in, I was unpacking them, and for whatever reason, I put this down somewhere and I couldn't find it. And guess what? I couldn't listen to the speakers. I don't even think I could turn them on. You lose this, you're not listening to your speakers. There is no automatic input switching. You better hold on to that remote control. Otherwise, these become a very expensive paperweight. The good news is Aperion does sell replacement remotes, but a speaker, $400 speaker, it should have physical buttons. No tone controls. None. Now, granted, this thing does sound fantastic for my personal listening taste. It's not going to be for everybody, but you get what you get because there is no treble. There are no bass controls. Now, one can get around that depending upon what source they're using to connect to this thing. If you have, like the Wiim Mini Streamer connected to it, there is EQ settings within the Wiim Streamer, but they're pre-baked settings. So it's like a bass boost, bass reducer, treble boost, things like that. If you have them hooked up to your computer, you could use an EQ. But that's another thing I don't like about these. There's no USB connection. Not every computer has an optical output. Mine does, but not every computer does. I think it's overpriced. At $400, I'll put it to you this way. I think it sounds like a $400 speaker, but it doesn't have any of the features of a $400 speaker. And powered speakers, the competition is fierce. Edifier comes to mind, but Q Acoustics, Klipsch, just about every major speaker company out there has some form of a powered speaker. Kanto, however you say it. The Klipsch and the Kanto have all sorts of input options, and they come in around the same price. Allaire sounds pretty good. To me, I don't mind it. However, I have a tendency to lose remote controls, especially with the little ones. Overall, I think this is an exceptional sounding speaker at the price, with the exception of maybe a little bit loose bass. I'll trade that for bass presence though, for my style of listening, which is rock and roll, metal, a little bit of rap in there. I think these play really well with that type of music. If you're into jazz, if you're into heavy acoustic stuff and you want a completely reference sound signature, you're probably not going to get it from the Allaires. I think they should have included tone controls, and I really think they should have included some type of physical input switching, volume control, something on the speaker. You're just too dependent on the remote control. I do have a 10% off coupon for Aperion products. It's cheap 10. I'll put it cheap and then 10, cheap 10. I'll put it in the description. Aperion's a great company. And I think if they came out with a little bit of a tweak to these, I think they could be a real contender in the space. But as of right now, I think they're a bit overpriced for what you get. $360 though, that may change your mind. And they do sound good if you don't have kids. And this is magnetic too, so you can stick it on something. If you have a magnetic couch, you can stick it on your couch and you won't really have to worry about losing the remote. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also sign up for Amazon Music or Tidal. There are links in the description. If you click on the links and sign up, I will get a couple of dollars, even if it's just for a trial. You can also use the links in the description to buy the Aperions or anything else. If you click and use those links, for the most part, I will get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more, so it's a great way to support the channel. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe through your new Aperion Allaires. Don't lose the remote though, and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.